Hey there, Thomas from Bricks here. In today's video, I'm going to show you the highlights of the brand new Bricks 185. And we've got a total of 3 new elements for you. I'm talking about the reading time element, there's a reading progress bar element, and there's a table of contents elements. And I'm going to show you the use case here in relation to a single blog post template, but you can use this on any page, any sort of long form content where you want to give your user additional information, such as maybe navigating through your content using the table of contents elements, showing the reading progress using the reading progress bar. Maybe just give a quick indication how long it's going to take to consume your content using the reading time element. All of those elements have a content selector setting, which is pretty handy, making it super flexible to use it in whichever context you need them. So you're not just limited to a particular use case here. All right, next up, we've got some exciting new settings for the image element. There's a new mask setting that I'm going to show you. And we also got a new sources setting, making it possible now to set and show different images per breakpoint. And this also actually allows us now to set a fallback image. If you're familiar with responsive images in general on web design, this is using the picture and source HTML text. So I'm going to show you how that works in Bricks now, starting at 185. And we also got various improvements in regards to the background video setting, which we introduced in the last update, but it was limited to YouTube only. Now all of those settings apply to Vimeo and locally hosted videos as well. And also pretty cool improvement in regards to the start the play at a specific breakpoint setting that I'm going to show you at the end of the video, so make sure you to stick around till the very end. All right, let's jump into the single blog post template that I mentioned in the beginning to have a look at those 3 elements. And I already set this up here locally, very simple setting, just to illustrate you how it can look like. I've got my reading time here. This one is using a 200 words per minute default, which we can also customize. And I'm going to show you once we jump into the builder. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that we've got our table of contents. This one is also dynamically being generated according to the headings on your page or whatever content selector you've defined. I talked about the content selector in the beginning in the intro of this video. So we're going to check this out once we're inside of the builder. And at the very top here, you can see we've got our reading progress bar, which is filling up as I scroll down. And once I reach the end of the page, it's going to hit the 100% and it's completely filled. All right, let's have a look how this is set up here. So this is inside of Bricks, right? Maybe you're just going to have a look at the reading progress bar first, which is at the very top. And by default, it's going to show you the progress of scrolling progress, basically, in regards to the body, so the entire page. But we can also change this later. I'm going to show you how we can use this maybe to indicate the progress of our post content element only. You can also change the position, rather simple. So right now it's at the very top. Maybe I scroll down a bit so you can see it here. This is the reading progress bar. If I want to position it at the bottom, I can set it to bottom, and then it's going to show up down here. If you want to have a custom position, you can also just set it to custom, and then you can head over to layout and set your top right, bottom left values here as well. So that's possible. And as you can see, it actually follows along as I scroll down. This is because by default, it's going to use the position fixed here. We can change this to sticky, especially if I want to now change this in regards to the post content element. I'm going to first move it maybe above the post content. That makes sense, right? So I'm just going to move it here. And then I'm going to change my position to sticky. And then I give it a little bit of a breathing room here at the top. And what you will notice now is that as I scroll down, this is now going to follow along here inside of my post content. So that's another way to use it. Not in regards to the body, but in regards in relation to my post content. I can change the setting here using the content selector because it's still calculating my progress according to the body. If I want to change this to the post content, and if you're familiar with the Bricks element classes, you already know what you put in here. If you're not sure, you can always just go to the front end, inspect your post content, This is the paragraph, and this is the entire post content element. So you can just go here, hit enter, navigate to either the ID or the class. For me, I'm just going to copy the class here. And I'm going to go back here, and then I'm going to change my content selector. I'm going to put a period here for the class. And it's now calculating the progress based on my post content and not the entire page. So you can see, although I'm already scrolling down, it's not filling up my progress bar as it did initially. But as soon as I probably need to hit reload here once, as soon as my post content reaches the top of the viewport, it's going to start filling up this indicator, as you can see now. Once the bottom of my post content is reaching the top of the viewport, I'm going to hit 100%. And you can set this to anything else that you want. Doesn't need to be the post content, but just to illustrate you how you could use this in different contexts. And like I said, this is also working for the reading time and also for the table of contents elements, which we're going to explore next. So reading time. I'm probably first going to change my reading progress bar. Should I keep it? I'm going to keep it as it is. Actually, one thing I want to show you. Of course, what's also possible, when I have like a border radius here, that, for example, would work here as well, right? So you can style it in any way you want. Change the bar colors. I just changed them here to this little light background color. Initially, I think by default it doesn't have any background color, so just that you can see it better. But yeah, that's basically how it looks like. Right. Okay. The reading time element, which I already customized a little bit. I think by default it actually has a prefix. I think it says reading time like that. So the icon that you can see here, it's just an icon element. It's not part of the reading time. I just added it here inside of the layout to just give you an idea of how you could style it, possibly putting both of them inside of a block, change the direction, and give it a little bit of gap to accomplish this sort of layout. Very simple. And like I said, the words per minute is set to 200 by default. We can change this to any value that we want. The article itself has, I think, pretty much exactly 400 words. So if I'm now going to change this to 100, it's going to say that it takes 4 minutes to read the entire article because it has 400 words. By default, it's also, or in the background, it's always rounding up the reading time to the next full integer. So if it's going to take 3.6 minutes to read, it's going to round it up to 4. It's not showing you any decimal values here. If I'm going to change this to 50, it would say it's going to take 8 minutes to read the entire article. And because most of the time you're probably going to use the reading time in a single blog post, it's by default set to the post content, which you can see here. For the content selector, it's now using this BRXE post content, which we also used previously for our reading progress bar, or which we use for our reading progress bar right now, but the reading time is using it by default. If you don't specify anything here, and there is no post content element, that's automatically going to fall back to the BRXE content. So that's basically the main content between your site's header and footer. But like I said, you can also customize this to anything else. If you want to show the reading time for, what else do we have on this page? The comment section. If I would move this down to the comment section, then I'm going to change the selector to, I think that's the selector for the comment section, right? Words per minute is at 50, and now it's going to take 3 minutes. So this one has around 150 words in total. So yeah, you can use this content selector here as well to change the context of whatever the reading time calculation should be based on. All right, that's everything to the reading time. We're now going to have a look at the table of contents elements, which I already also styled a little bit here. By default, the border that you can see here is not set. That's everything that I set here custom. I've got a padding of 20, which you can see has a padding of 20, and then the subheadings have another padding of 20, so you can see the indentation as well. The border setting, rather simple. I just set it to a 4-pixel solid, like this light gray color here. So that's the default. And whatever is the currently active heading, that's going to get a, like this red border. Of course, I can change this to anything else. If I want to make it blue, it's going to be blue. And you can style this in any way you want. I just happen to move it here on the right hand side. You don't need to do this. If you don't want to have it sticky as well, because that's also something that I set here custom, that's not the case by default, but what I want to do here in my layout is to make sure that my table of contents element is going to scroll down. By default, it's just going to be static, like the heading, it's just going to stay wherever it's rendering in the DOM. But if you want it to be sticky, you can just set the sticky head setting here, making it a bit easier, especially also for beginner users. But if you're more advanced and you don't want to rely on those settings, or more advanced, more experienced, you can also just head over here to your position and just set all of those values here as well. This is just to make it a bit more intuitive and easier to set them, especially for the table of contents elements where you would probably want to have it sticky in order to make sure that it's following along as you scroll down. And you can see as I'm scrolling down and as I'm reaching my headings here, it's gonna change the active element as well. And you can also change the heading selectors as well. By default, it's gonna take the H2 and H3 headings. The first one is an H2 here, the second one is an H2, and the third one is an H3. If you only want to include your H2 headings, let's just do that. So we're just going to put in H2. And you will see that now my table of contents element updates, and it's only going to show me my H2 headings. This conclusion, which is an H3, is no longer part of my table of contents elements. Of course, you can use auto selectors here as well, but most of the time you probably just want to include your headings, so that's why it's called the heading selector. But yeah, you can put in anything else you want here. And yeah, that's everything to those 3 new elements. And we can now have a look at the image element. There are also 2 new features. The first one being the mask setting, and the second one, the sources, allowing us to set different images per breakpoint and also to set a fallback image. So let's have a look at the builder. I'm just going to edit my release post here. Gonna put in a section with container, and I'm gonna put in an image. And on this image, I'm just gonna set my image here. Let's just take one of our blog post images here. And now this one is going to be rendered, and we will first have a look at the new image mask setting. So we need to scroll all the way down, and then we can select one of our masks here. I think we got a little bit more than 30 that you can just select from here. I'm just going to select the first one. And yeah, this is how the mask is applied to the image, resulting in this kind of like boom graphic here. And can select another one. Maybe I'm just going to stick with a simple circle here. So then without actually having to edit my image, if I know I want to have this as a circle image, I can just apply this mask, and I don't need to go into don't need to perform any image editing here. Those masks are all SVG files. You can also go ahead and select your own custom masks and apply them. But I would definitely recommend you enable the SVG uploads and use an SVG here in order to not, you could use a PNG with a transparent background with alpha level. But yeah, especially on larger images, can result maybe in some sort of blur. So yeah, definitely I would recommend it to just stick with SVG files here. Just using one of the Bricks core masks. Same as the shape dividers, actually. If you use that feature, they are also SVG files that are being rendered to generate the shape. It's the same thing, basically. If you would open this up, if you inspect the Bricks theme, and you go under Assets, Images, SVG, I believe, you can see all of the SVGs that Bricks includes. And yeah, this is basically a black circle in terms of an SVG file here. Okay, and I'm now just going to show you the remaining settings here. So because the feature itself, like I said, is rather simple, you can just select from all of those different masks here, or select your own SVG. And then you can change the size. By default, it's set to contain. You can try the cover. I'm just going to show you the custom size, just so you can see how it looks like. I believe I've got a 900 pixel container width, so I'm just going to set this to 300 pixel. So you can see, and this is how it looks like now, taking up basically 1/3 of the space. It's not repeating by default, but if you want to have it repeated, you can just set this to repeat like this, and then it's just going to repeat starting at the center. If I would change this to, let's say 450, so we got a total of 2 circles in a row here. You can also see how the position would affect this because it starts at the center, but if I would change this to, let's say top left, it would start generating my mask from the top left corner. And yeah, those are basically all the settings that you have for the new image mask feature. All right, let's have a look at the new source setting by scrolling back up. And if you're familiar with responsive images, you probably heard of the picture and the source tags. This is basically what's being generated here in the background when you add sources for different breakpoints or any other custom media query, which we can also specify. I'm going to show you both scenarios. There's also a little bit of an explanation here, how you would go about setting those up. It's important that you start at the smallest breakpoint. And if you're using mobile first, you would start setting the sources beginning at the largest breakpoint. I'm not doing any mobile first design here, so I'm just going to start at the smallest breakpoint by adding my first source, and I'm going to select the breakpoint up until which I want to show a different image. So in my case, I want to say everything up to the mobile portrait, which is everything up to 478 pixels. I want to show a different image. You can also use dynamic data here. But I'm just going to stick with a single image here. And I'm just going to select a different image so you can see how this is going to look like. So this is going to have this tree image here. And you can see still renders my default image here on my desktop breakpoint. If I go down to a mobile portrait, it still renders this image, same on the landscape. But as soon as I hit the mobile portrait here, you should see that it's now going to pick up a different image. So this is different from the source set that you normally have in WordPress when selecting an image here. It's just going to show you basically a different size version of this image according to specific media queries. And this one actually allows you to set a completely different image as well. So that's basically the difference here. Let's build up on this because this is covering everything up to 478 pixel, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and select a custom media query here. And here I'm going to say, you can already see the placeholder value max with 600 pixels. So that's just give you an example of what you could use here. But you don't need to rely on a max width or a min width. You can also use an orientation setting, whatever media query, media condition you want to use here for this specific image. I'm going to stick with the max width just to keep everything simple here. I'm going to set a max width of 1000 pixel. So everything up to 1000 pixel, but that's larger than my 700, that's larger than my mobile portrait, is going to use whatever image I'm going to select here now. So let's select a different image. Let's take this one here. And I'm going to insert it. And now if we go to a larger breakpoint, so this one here is now showing this image because it falls into this condition here, max with 1000 pixel, but larger than my mobile portrait. Same for the tablet portrait, 990 pixel. But if I would, for example, put something like 1100 pixel, this condition is no longer true. So it's just going to fall back to whatever image I have set up here. So that's how you can set different images per breakpoint or any other custom media query that you want. And speaking about fallback, because I just mentioned that this one is always going to serve as the fallback, what you can actually do here is to set a fallback image now using this logic here, right? I'm just going to delete all of my sources just to show you this from a fresh start. It's also mentioned here in the description, set a source tag at the base breakpoint to use the main image, this one, as the fallback image, because this is always going to be used as the fallback if none of the other conditions is true or the image doesn't exist, right? So what I can do now, I can just say, I want to have a fallback image. Probably going to do this actually on a query loop to show you how you can use this maybe when you work with featured images in a loop, just to give you a little bit of a different example here. So what are we going to do here? We're going to wrap our image in a block. And this block is going to use a query. And I'm also going to show the post title here, so you can see the different query loop results. I'm going to reduce my image dimensions here to thumbnail. Okay. And what I want to use here as my fallback image now is not this image. I actually want to use what can be a good fallback image. Yeah, this one here. So this is going to be used in case my sources image is not going to be found. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to select my base breakpoint, right? Because this condition is going to apply to every breakpoint because it's my base breakpoint. And I am now dynamically going to choose, I can choose the featured image, but I think all of my posts have a featured image. Let me quickly check. Yeah, they all have a featured image, so that's not a good choice here. So the fallback doesn't kick in. I think I got an ACF image for my posts. Let me quickly have a look. I think it's this one, image first. Yeah, perfect. So this one here now, you can see that, let's reduce this again. You can see that only the first post is now showing this image because it's the only one that is actually having this ACF image and this dynamic data on the post itself. Everything else is just going to fall back to whatever image I've set up here as my fallback image. So post number 3, 4, 5, they're all going to use this as a fallback. So yeah, that's another pretty handy way to use this sources feature. You can also check out the documentation here from Mozilla and the developer documentation about the picture tag to learn more about it. But yeah, that's how you basically can use it to set up a fallback image and to also set up different images per breakpoint. All right, that's feature number or area number 2. We went through all of the new elements. We had a look at the image element, and we're now going to check out the background video improvements. I'm gonna delete my section here, put in a new one, and I'm going to select a background video that I also already prepared. So I go to background. I got it here in my dynamic data in ACF as well under link. So this is just a URL of a locally hosted video, but it's also going to work with all of the other video sources such as YouTube and Vimeo. So let's just select this, and because it doesn't have any content, I'm just going to give it a min height of 300. And you can now see my background video playing this video. I picked on purpose because it's gonna count up until 60. So this is a 60-second video. I think it's gonna be perfect to showcase all of the start and end time, play one settings, and then also the play at a specific breakpoint. So those settings were already available in 184, but they were limited to YouTube. Now they work for all of your video sources here. So if I'm going to change the start time, I don't want to start at the beginning of this video. I want to start at 10 seconds. So you can now see that it's counting up until 10, and then it's just going to keep looping. It's going to go till the end. It's going to loop. It's going to loop. It's going to loop. But the loop, it's starting again at those 10 seconds. Giving you also the opportunity to use a video without really having to cut it, although probably long-term that's the better approach anyway, because you would have to load a smaller video file. But if for any reason you require a start time, this is how you can set it. I can also set the end time. Let's just set it to 15. So now it's going to count from 10. And then once it reaches 15, it's going to loop again at 10. And it's going to keep looping. We can also set this to play once. So if I want to select this one here, it's going to count from 10 until 15. And once we reach the end at 15 seconds, it's just going to pause and it's going to stop the video here. So those are the first 3 settings for the background video. The last one was available also in 184, but it was only a checkbox setting. So you can just basically say play on mobile, which again was limited to YouTube. Now you can decide for any sort of video source if it should be loaded or not. So it's not just going to visually hide it on the front end. It's not going to load the video at all. which is especially useful for mobile devices if you want to save some bandwidth and make sure your video loads faster on mobile devices. That's a great setting to start utilizing. I'm going to show you this. We need to preview this on the front end because in the builder right now it's going to render the background video on all of the breakpoints. But yeah, we can quickly jump to the front end. Let's just say I want to show this background video at everything that's a tablet portrait and or larger, right? So let's select that and let's load it here. So you can see, because this is larger than tablet portrait, I think this is like 1600 pixel or something. So it's gonna play. If I'm now would change my viewport to, it stopped playing again, also because I'm not looping here, right? So that's perfect. If I were to go to a smaller breakpoint, such as the mobile landscape, and then I'm gonna reload, you will see that my background video is not being loaded at all. It's also not part of the DOM. It's just simply, the output is not being generated, resulting in, less resources to load for your visitors that are using a mobile device that's gonna, fit into this category here. And with that, we reached the end of my presentation here. This is everything that's new in Brix 1.8.5. As always, happy building. Make sure to check out the changelog at brixbuild.io/changelog, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.